And go ahead and shut your computers for right now. We don't need them for right now. If you don't need to put them all the way up, we're going to do some Excel later, but we don't need them for a little while. So shut those for me. The last thing we need is more distractions. There are enough already. Okay, so let's look at example 4 here. So let's review. What is the first thing I'm going to do when I'm solving an equation? Specifically, what type of multiplication? Distributing. Can I distribute for this problem? Yes. I have parentheses. Both of these parentheses do not have a number in front of them, but they do have that negative, so it's like I'm distributing a -1. So, I'm going to distribute a -1 here to both of these. So I'll get 2x minus 1x plus 3 here. When you distribute a negative, it just changes the sign of both things on the inside of the parentheses. So, -1, this x right here, it's like it's got a 1 in front of it. -1 times 1 just gives you -1, so that's where we get our minus 1x. And then -1 times -3 gives us a positive 3. So, Passion, whenever I distribute, it's the same thing over here. I got to distribute this -1. So when I do -1 times -x, what am I going to get? We'll get 1x, it's positive, so we'll put a plus 1x, or just an x if you want to write. You don't have to have that one there. And then we also have to distribute this -1 to that positive 5. What's that going to give us? Okay? What type? Shall you have plus 5 or minus 5? It's going to be minus 5, because when I do negative times that positive right there, it's going to give me a negative. Right, whenever you distribute a negative, it just changes the sign of both of those numbers. Right? Okay, questions so far? What's the second thing we're supposed to do? Combine like terms. Do not start moving stuff yet. So I'm just looking over here on the left side. Let's see, Zane, what could I put together on that left side? Okay, our 2x and our -1x. What's that going to give us, Zane? Is 1x. Don't lose that x that's with it, okay? Because if you lose a variable, it'll mess you up bad. On the right-hand side, Laura, what could I put together on the right-hand side? Perfect. 14 and that -5. So what am I going to get when I put the 14 and -5 together? It's 9. Good. Okay? So I distribute. I combine like terms. The next thing we're going to do is move variables. Do not move your numbers yet. I know a lot of you out there want to subtract a 3 or a 9. Don't do it yet, because if you do, sometimes it makes it really confusing in the next step. Okay? So, move variables first. Technically, you can move the 3 and the 9. It is a legal move, but it just makes it look more confusing afterwards. So, it's going to be a good practice to move your variables first before you do anything else. So, if I want to move a variable, it doesn't really matter which one. I've got a positive 1x here, so I got to do a minus 1x. That will cancel here. What happens over here on the left-hand side? What's 1x minus 1x? It's 0. It cancels too. There's no x's there, because if you write an x, what number's in front of the x if you write it? A 1. 1 minus 1 does not equal 1. Right? So don't write an x. You got nothing. If you want to put a 0, you can. but you got nothing here. So what's happened here is the variables have canceled out on both sides. So all I've got left is a 3 equals 9. It's not 3. It's not 12. It's not 6. It's nothing because you don't have a variable to solve for anymore. So a lot of students, like, if there's no x, they try to start sticking an x in there. So like Passion, she was thinking, I'm just going to put me an x right here and divide by 3, right? We can't do that. So whenever your variables cancel out on both sides, right? Let's write this down. When the variables, I'm sorry about that. On both sides, you either have no solution or infinitely many solutions. Alright, so if you have a true statement, it will be infinitely many solutions. If you have a false statement, it's no solution. Does 3 equal 9? No. 3 does not equal 9. That is false, so we say no solution. So it doesn't matter what number you put in for x. You could try any number in the world. Nothing is going to work for this. This happens when variables cancel on both sides. Okay, questions? All right, let's do one more, and then I'm going to give you guys something to do on your own. Alright, so we got 4 times x minus 3 plus 2x equals 8 plus 5 times x minus 2. So, for this one, Alyssa, what would I do first on this problem? Good. And so I can distribute this 4 right here. When I do that, what will I get, Alyssa? Very good. And we'll just bring that plus 2x down here. And over here, I can distribute the 5 on the right-hand side. What will I get there, Alyssa? Good. Perfect. Okay, Vince, what comes next? We need to combine our like terms. Is it going to be 4x minus 2x? This 4x right here is positive, right? What about that 2x? Is it positive or negative? It's positive. You don't change signs or anything because you're not moving it from one side to the other. So since they're both positive, what are we going to get, Vince? We'll get 6x minus 12. And then on the other side, Vince, what can I put together? 5's got an x. It's got to be that negative 10. So 8 and negative 10, what's that going to give us? Negative 2. And we'll just bring that plus 5x down. Okay, very good. All right, Presley, what would we do after that? Okay? Or we could do the opposite. If you do the opposite, you don't have a negative to deal with. But you could do exactly that. You could subtract the 6. It'd work. But since you realized halfway through there it might be easier to move the 5x, let's do that. Just a little bit easier because when you do 6x minus 5x, you just get 1x, which you don't even have to put the 1 in front. You can if you want, but you don't have to. And then Presley, what's the last step? Very good. And what will we get? Are you sure about that? It is a negative 2 plus 12 is 10. Good. So 10 is our answer there. Now, I want to stress as a whole to you guys the importance of the neatness of your work. Some of you have beautiful work and do not need to listen to my rant right now. But some of you have terrible work, and you would have worked this problem something, here I'll show you. You would have worked this problem something like this. You might would have wrote this. Then you might have even done this part right. But then you would have gone This is what happens whenever you get crazy. Like, you might would have even been good to hear, and then you just like, oh, this is easy, I knew in my head. And then you write things not in the right spot, you lose track. Look what I've done here at the end. Negative 2 equals 18x. A lot of times students, if they're getting something that doesn't, like, right here, you're supposed to divide by 18. And so negative 2 divided by 18. If they get something like they don't know how to do in their head, they just put no solution. That's not a good idea, right? That is a solution, like if that was right, which it's not, it'd be negative 1 over 9, and that is an answer. So sometimes you get fractions. You won't a lot on the quiz just because it's hard for me to do those where you can type those in. But please, please, please make your work look really neat. Use each line, really follow what you're doing. Don't skip around, because when we get to these longer equations, if you don't keep your work neat and follow everything down to the next line, you lose something, and that's going to cause you to miss the problem. Okay, so be really careful with that. All right, so